This is a hell of a conversation for you to walk into. Can you hear us okay?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. All right, you guys got me.
Hey, man,
Yeah.
we've been trying to get this guy on forever, and I like I said, I give him a little bit more leeway than I would, other guests because one, he's a bit more, meant to be taken serious for his accreditation, and also because he's in the middle of a power center that is in some deep shit right now. So I understand, totally why he's had to reschedule. Thanks for coming on finally, Kirk. I haven't spoken to you like this since my old Surreal Sermon show.
Yeah, it's been 4 years maybe.
I believe so, yeah.
What power center are you talking about? What are you talking about there?
New York.
Jeremy?
New York.
Oh, okay. You're actually New York City proper?
I mean, that's
Hell
not
no,
doctrine, is
hell
it?
no.
That's
I'm,
not
I'm in
doctrine.
New York. I'm in New York, but I'm about 20 minutes from the Canadian border, so I have more
Okay.
cows for neighbors than I do people.
Oh, okay. Okay, I got you.
So are you doing okay, Kirk, over there? I mean, what's it like?
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, like I said, we've got more open space than ever. I'm in just outside of the foothills of the Adirondacks, so we don't really have a lot of folks around here. But at the same time, we have 4 super center stores within a 30-mile radius, so that's been good. It's not like we're running out of supplies or anything like that. We're dealing with the same shortages as everybody else is. I've got relatives that are farmers, so we have access to food and land and all that kind of stuff. It's been pretty decent for me. I'm actually fairly lucky compared to a lot of the folks, not only in this area but the ones in the city as well. So I can't complain really at all.
Mm-hmm. There was a long dry spell with your between releases initially after you wrote Uncle Sam's Carnival of Copulating in Animals for Eraserhead, and then suddenly you unleashed this barrage of books like all at once. It was great. Journey to Abortosphere, Die Empty, Fuck Happiness, Ether Christ, and there was one more, I think.
Masturbatory Entropy. I just self-published that one, but
which one was about the Philadelphia experiment? Or
that's a journey to avoid Abortosphere. Yeah.
So it's good to see that and you are getting better. Fuck Happiness. I actually wanted I wanted it to be a masterpiece. I was really rooting for it. And
oh no, that was my fun book, man. That was like, you do one that's kind of serious, and then you do one that you're just kind of fucking around. And
that's the thing. It was fun, but I felt like it should have been more Matrix fun and less like Animal House fun, if that makes sense. Like the cough syrup addicted vulture was cool, but it felt out of place in that story, and also the like excreting bubble bath as a way to purify the universe's energies or something. Is that right?
Roughly so, yeah.
So we've got all these individuals in this loose knit group, and they in different ways they excrete or secrete the negative energy of the universe through maybe their spit or their snot or their piss or shit or or whatever.
Definitely. For me, I just coming off Die Empty, that book was really bleak and almost too serious for me, and I had to do something that was light and lighthearted. And it was also kind of a stream of conscious thing. It just whatever came out of me at night, that's what stuck with it. I mean, I deleted a good chunk of it, and it really was kind of. I would say it's like probably the last Bizarro book that I'll do. I might have writing that's weird in the future, but that was the last one I could come up with, and I tried like hell. I was in the same boat as you. You know how I am. I'm always trying to approach Bizarro writing as seriously as I can. And try to avoid kind of the juvenile humor, but it's where it went. That's where the book went. And, I came into the book thinking I'm more well-read, I'm more well-versed in this genre now. I have a better sense of how it can function in a mature level, and it just became fart jokes and garbage pail kid type stuff. I do think there is a serious side to the book, and I think thematically on one hand of the spectrum, and I think this is your sentiment, it could be considered thematically inconsistent. And then there's another part of me that thinks that the world never really operates in as clean a fashion as what we want it to in fiction. So there's definitely, I think, some maybe thematic inconsistency in terms of what we deal with in terms of genre expectations. But at the same time, in a single day's time, I can go from being very serious and having my ego bolstered or whatever, and in the next minute a bird will shit on my head, or I'll fart on an elevator and someone that I know will get on, and my whole everything is just shot to hell. And or something small happens that humbles you immediately, and you're like, wow, man, like I can't decide if I'm like the protagonist in my own story or if I'm just fucking Charlie Brown, you know what I mean? And
we all want to be taken seriously to some degree at certain times, but we still may be vulnerable to the absurdities of life, whether we want to it be or not, basically.
Exactly. And that's kind of what the book was. It was just like, you know what, fuck it, man. This this is how it goes.
Ether Christ, I liked it, but I felt like I didn't always understand what was going on. And the female was very hard to like at times, but
Sure. For one of my biggest problems, I think, with and this is one of the reasons we got along so well with Journey to Abortosphere, was because you had knowledge of the whole Manhattan Project and Philadelphia experiment and all that. I'm always kind of reading up, researching things, and then I'll make this huge fucking leap in terms of my own thinking, but then I never put it in the goddamn book. So I end up with Ether Christ. That was like this humongous leap. There really isn't a lot of conspiracy theory surrounding the ideas that were presented in the book. So I went into the St. Lawrence University library, and all the kids were gone in the summer, and I just started reading books about FCC regulations, broadcast regulations. I don't even know what the hell. I was probably trying to avoid doing my dissertation is what I was doing, and just picking up the most boring books I could possibly find on the shelves. And I started noticing, it's all in the book, noticing that the FCC kept broadcast open even after cable was designed for years, and trying to think about why would they do that? What are some reasons that might happen? And then looking into the whole broadcast disruption that happened in Chicago there with the
Max
There you
Headroom
go.
hijacking.
Yeah,
You got the Max
I
Headroom
lived in
incident.
Chicago and that went down. Yeah,
That was awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really cool. And it's been a hell of a source of source material, I guess, for the book. And but then it just made these giant leaps. Like, well, maybe the airwaves were used to stifle psychic powers in humans, or the collective unconscious, and kind of synthesize the collective unconscious. And of course, we have new theorists in sociology talking about how the internet is the same thing. We're constantly synthesizing the collective unconscious and all this kind of stuff. And I just threw it in the book, but I never really bridged the gap between the shit that I read and my thinking. And that's something that I'm trying to work on in new books. But of course you run the risk of sounding heavy-handed, and losing your audience to the boring, drivel that you're going through. So that's why I added those journal entries to the beginning of every chapter, to try to wade through all that crap, before getting into the actual storyline. But I still have a problem with trying to balance story and whatever kind of messed up conspiracy theory or message I'm trying to peddle underneath that, and going back to Fuck Happiness real quick, that was probably one of the first books where I thought genuinely I wasn't trying to peddle any message. But of course, there it is. You know what I mean? I guess I can't get away from that. I've always got something stupid I got to say. So
how do your fellow staff members, teachers, and also your students, how do they receive your work, if at all? I mean,
are they aware of it, or do they?
Oh yeah, I put it on my CV. I don't give a shit. I'll. In fact, there are times where I'll put it on my CV for peer review and for the deans, but then when it gets to the provost level, I'll take it off. Yeah, for the provost that we have right now, but for my previous provost, I got along with him pretty well, and he knew about all the stuff, and we'd even talk about Chuck Tingle books and things like that. And I do with my coworkers too. So it's kind of I think it's for most of them, it's just kind of something to laugh about. I work at it's essentially it's a 4-year college, but it was a community college for years, and we're kind of the for lack of a better phrase, considered like the redheaded stepchild of the SUNY system, but we do really well for ourselves also in online learning and things like that. So as kind of, you could consider my work, I'm kind of an underdog scholar. Everyone else is trying to, write the great American novel, or they're aspiring to, to do some groundbreaking, as groundbreaking as humanities research can be, i.e. not very fucking groundbreaking. And I'm over here like, I'm writing books about fart jokes and things like that. So I think it can also be disarming though for people too, and that bleeds over into my personality at work. I'm not a conventional academic. I'm just, a t-shirt and jeans kind of guy. And I think I feel like I should be judged by the quality of my work. And if people think it sucks, then they can take it as they do. But I do so much administrative work that my scholarship really doesn't matter anymore. I can write basically whatever I want to, and even leave it off my CV if it's too, raunchy. I don't think I have fuck happiness on my CV. And people will just look at my administrative work instead and say, all right, this guy's fine. Just keep pushing him up the ladder for the time being, and he'll be all right. So, Ben likes to read, he's been reading Thomas Volman lately. And and I think Zach was going to read Infinite Jest at one point. Shit.
I'm reading that after I finish House of Leaves.
Those thick, heady, scholarly books that
Hey, Jeremy, it's because we're smarter than you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
They slap.
Yeah, I was really smart to spend the 700 pages on that mediocre William T.
Yeah, I mean,
Volman.
you've been reading it all year, right? I mean,
I finished it, so give me head pats and
I don't have to hear about it
celebrations
anymore.
and shit.
But I'm surprised that you haven't tried to write your own yet.
Oh shit! You talking to me, man?
Well, yeah.
Oh,
Kirk,
that's where you're leading.
Yeah.
That's where you're leading.
Damn.
Yeah,
I'm not writing that kind of stuff. Holy shit, man! No, that's not really my style.
A 2,000 page Pynchon-esque novel. That's what we want out of you.
Hang on. There's like a recent development. Shit. No. How the fuck do I erase that, man? Oh God.
Erase what?
Nothing. Don't worry. There.
It's gone. Yeah, it's gone. No, man, I would never.
There's the link. There's the link to come in here. Okay, but whoever it is, you're gonna have to wait. You're gonna have to wait until our guest is finished. Okay.
No, I don't think I'll go down that trail. For me, actually.
Oh, and I didn't mean to put that up on the screen either. But
that was my fault. I forgot that Goodreads was on the freaking screen. And I sent you the message.
So you're not going to write a really dense literary novel, Kirk?
I don't think so. For me, I spent so much time in undergrad listening to professors talk about how, popular fiction was garbage, and essentially the only thing worth reading was Salman Rushdie and Don DeLillo and Thomas Pynchon, and it just got so fucking old. And then you get to college and you actually meet people who it's like a part of their internal ranking system, and they'll be like, well, I've read Gravity's Rainbow, and it's like that's fucking great for you.
Right.
Yeah, man, I used to have a professor who, if you read Gravity's Rainbow and could prove to him that you read it, he would hug you.
Wow. Well,
He would what?
One good reason. Not
He would
What
hug
do you
you.
do?
Like he would
He would
hug
hug
the student. If they finish Gravity's Rainbow.
That's not much of a reward.
Yeah, I know.
Well, it's scary.
Maybe if he was a she with huge knockers, that would be a reward. But otherwise, it's not.
Well, no, there had to be some fellatio involved to get through that thing.
Hey,
shit, man.
Oh,
Hi,
heck, I thought
Phoenix.
that
How you
was gonna
doing?
be Nathan Carson.
No, but we'll get there if he does want to.
I
come
didn't mean
on.
that as a thing against Phoenix. I was like,
No.
he's
Hey,
actually
good-
doing it. And it's-
Phoenix, good to have you back, brother. How have you been doing? Hello.
Can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah. Hey.
It sounds really muffled and staticky.
Huh.
Yeah, it might be because you're on a phone. They for some reason, it's a lot jankier on mobiles.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm assuming you can hear me okay though.
Yes.
Yeah.
You sound fine.
Okay.
So
I'm
yeah,
wondering if I
we
should try my laptop.
yeah
Right?
you might want to, yeah. It's no problem,
Okay,
man.
I'll do that.
Okay. So
Okay.
so
Okay,
Kirk,
one
you don't think that you have your like Infinite Jest what is it, Lucky Star type novel in you?
No, man. I just I've got two that I'm trying to pitch around. One's a dark sci-fi, kind of like Ether Christ, and then I've got another one that's just traditional horror. And then right now I'm actually just doing kind of like YA type shit. Just fucking around with attempting to break a little bit more into maybe mainstream writing. But I just literary writing is such a slog for me. I always go back to I felt kind of out of place and weird in undergrad, and then I listened to this Bukowski quote where he was talking about trying to read War and Peace and how boring it was and how it felt like someone was trying to pull the wool over his eyes or something, and it didn't sit right with him. And that's kind of how I felt through my entire undergraduate experience and part of grad school as well. It was just like, what am I doing here? What the hell is this? But it came easy to me, and I do like critical analysis of literature. I don't want to write the shit, you know what I mean? And that's basically where it is for me. So
So why can't I get this Philadelphia Experiment book in Kindle format?
it should be available on Kindle through Rooster Republic. They're still the ones that take control of that. It should be there. The only one that you can't is Masturbatory Entropy. That's just because I self published it. And I'm too lazy to format the Kindle version. Plus, it's a shitty book, anyways. You know what I mean? So.
Let me take a look here. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. I can get the paperback for $628.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
I'll ask Don Noble, man. Maybe they took it out of print or something. I'll double check. If that's the case, I'll see if I've got the rights to it, and I'll get a Kindle version out for sure.
By the way, Phoenix has written several books himself, and he took some out of print too. But have you heard of like Street Kid or let's see, what are some others?
In the Garden of Evil.
Contorted Royal, right?
I've missed them, man. I must have missed them. I would, if you send me some links, I'd love to check it out.
Sure. Well, I'll just pull them up here. But Phoenix, how you been doing?
I'm good. I hope I didn't what's the phrase when you drop a bomb on a party?
Crash the party.
What's the phrase?
Crash a party. Yeah.
Did I crash it?
No, I invited you. I invited you.
Okay, cool.
I admit that it may be awkward because you guys are such different styles, but no, it's cool, man. The more the merrier. Yeah,
Kirk, I can't find it in Kindle format, so
that's a bummer, man. I'll see what I can do for you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, I like Ether Christ quite a bit, but I've not read anything else by you, so it sounds as if Jeremy is telling me that I need to read this one, the Journey to a Bordosphere.
Oh,
right.
I don't know. I wouldn't say don't read Fuck Happiness, but I mean, I liked whichever one had.
I like the Philadelphia Experiment angle.
That's the one that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think I just wanted Fuck Happiness to be something maybe it wasn't.
Yeah. They apparently this Journey to the Bordosphere does appear to be out of print. Did they take it out without telling you?
Yeah, I don't think I heard anything. Maybe it came to me in a message on Facebook or something, and I just didn't pay attention to it. I'll look into it for sure. That's interesting.
It seems to be a trend on this show, Jeremy, that we get authors on here, look up their stuff on Amazon. It's not there,
and it's news to them, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's news to them as well. Yeah.
But so it's safe to say that your connections to Bizarro are very meager at this point, right, Kirk?
Yeah, I work with Addle, and I like them quite a bit.
It's not really Bizarro though.
Yeah, it's not really Bizarro at all. And Fuck Happiness is probably as deep down the Bizarro rabbit hole as I'll be going for a long time. It just I don't know, it just doesn't work for me anymore. I do like reading it sometimes still. I just can't write the shit.
Was Aether Christ Addle?
No, that's Apex. Actually, I'll make it quick, but Shock Totem accepted it, and then they went under, and due to the publisher, I think Ken Wood, he was having medical issues, so he sold the rights to the books to Apex.
Okay.
And they took it on, and then I sent them another book after that, and they held on to it for I think 8 months or so, and then they cut the magazine, and then they said, look, we're going to be holding on to this for like 2 years, so you might as well chop it around, and then when we have time, we'll bring it back under our wings if you haven't found anybody by the time that we're ready for it. And, so I'm still searching, and that's exactly what happened to me back between Uncle Sam and Rooster Republic too. It's hard to, when you shift genres or shift your approach, it's hard to find new people to publish your work, and
Right.
That's a cool cover.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. I can't remember the name.
I like the darker shade of blue, honestly, and I couldn't make out the image, but it's pretty cool.
How about that one? Huh?
I can see
that's cover he's had.
That's Reaver. Yeah, Revere. He does really good work. He did Abortosphere and some other ones. He threw that one together pretty quick for me, and turned out all right. But yeah, Aether Christ, I was really
I like that cover better. The Aether Christ cover, and that's a good cover too. Yeah. Yep,
that's Revere as well.
Revere also has those covers that like you have to like feel because they feel so weird, Matte finish or whatever.
Matte finish or is
Matte?
Yeah, Matt.
It's like so soft you got to like touch it. Yeah.
Well, that's the publisher decision. That's not really the designer's decision.
But the reason that always happens with his books, though.
That's by Rivera as well. That one was for you guys remember the whole Christian Hanner debacle. Those of you who were around.
I was going to ask about that. How many years has that been now?
Oh, it's been probably at least. Has it been 5 years, maybe something like that? Not too long.
Well, hang on. We're setting it up. Spectacular Productions, right?
You got it. Yeah, he came on and he set it up with. He had a bunch of people, Grant Womack, a bunch of folks that have disappeared since.
Me,
unfortunately.
He was going to publish me too. He had just accepted mine, and some people alerted me that this guy's going down. We're taking him down, and I thought that it was awfully pitchforky to go after the guy, whether he was a sleazebag or not.
Yeah. What exactly happened with Spectacular Productions? I remember seeing their website. They were accepting, books and everything, and then all of a sudden they just disappeared with some people being angry at him.
It was a disaster. I mean, it started off. He just had an idea to start a publishing house. He accepted some of the newer Bizarro folks. We'd been around for a little while, but we're just getting involved. And he had ISBNs purchased. He had all that set up. The contract was really thorough, really professional looking. Everything was good. And then after he accepted everybody, we got kind of radio silence, and the crickets started chirping. And then the kind of the rumblings of a mutiny of sorts started to echo in the scene, the Bizarro scene.
No, wait, which publisher again?
Spectacular Productions.
Okay, I've not heard of those.
And Christian Hanner was the guy behind it. And then things started coming out about how he was kind of slimy, and he had some shady history. And a lot of that, how much of it there was legitimacy to it, I don't know. I trusted one of the people who was talking a lot about it. But I really, at the time, I wasn't that concerned. And then Jordan Krall came out with his, group of people, and they just ripped the guy to pieces and did whatever they could to sabotage him and discredit him. And it got to the point where, minions that Jordan had summoned upon Hanner they'd completely gotten out of control. So Hanner just disappeared completely at that point, didn't respond to anybody, and we were all left high and dry, but we were going to be left high and dry anyways, most likely. I think really what it comes down to, it's not as much about the publisher's inability to publish the work, because yeah, he was making us wait for a long time, but I've seen, lead times. Sometimes it's 1 or 2 years before your book's even going to come out. Right. And I think people have become so acclimated to that instant gratification of being published, within a couple of months, that they expected that, something was wrong or there was a problem. I don't know. I think it was more a personal attack than it was a professional attack. And by the time it was over, it definitely was. Was it warranted? I can't say, because it sounded like he was kind of shady in some ways, but boy, holy shit, they really sunk their teeth into him.
Yeah, it got pretty ugly, but he was the first of many that they kind of witch hunted, whether it was warranted or not. Wait, yeah, okay, yeah, that's important to note that Strange said he did pay them advances, though. That's the thing. Now, even the presses they largely, were considered themselves, to be full-time for or represented officially, did not pay advances and bragged about not paying advances. So there is that. I mean, right?
Hanner was trying to do it by the books, man. He was, right. And he was trying to take a different approach. And I think he was getting a little cocky about it, but still, hey man, if you're cocky and you follow through, then what the hell's a big deal,
Yeah, well, the issue was that he had never published anything before. See, Phoenix here, don't you self-publish, Phoenix?
Yes.
You've had your dealings with presses though before, originally, right?
Like actually publishing a text.
Didn't you publish with Nihilism Revised?
Yeah. I wasn't sure if you meant like mainstream or indie or
indie,
like how
indie,
we.
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I was through Nihilism Revised.
You were never with them?
No, I was.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we had 2 books, Separation Healing and then Mind Blade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and those are out of print too, right?
Yeah. Hey, they're worth more now. So
do you think that there's a lot of headaches that you don't have to go through because you self-publish?
That's a good question. I mean, my whole struggle is like being able to get the professionalism from an actual publisher like Nihilism Revised versus keeping some kind of like maybe a personal vision, and the personal vision is usually sacrificed for like, I would describe more prestige, but I guess for whatever reason, at least for now, even though there's a lot of pain to doing the self-publishing, it's what I've been doing so far. And I think it's because of the vision, if that makes sense. I mean, there's nothing wrong with prestige or having a specific, like, I guess, I don't want to even use the word prestige, but I think you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because I mean, being published through indie or mainstream or whatever, like you get this, like one thing that SC had done by publishing my books was he exposed me to a larger audience, because there's the built-in fan base, so to speak. There's like already like committed readers. And so some of the pain from self-publishing is like, oh, like, well, nobody knows about this book though. So yeah,
there's more of an opportunity to have your book marketed and reach more people if you work with a professional publisher. But if you have a regular job, and you want to just publish for fun, then that's cool too. Hey, Chris, we got a full room right now, man. But we'll try to get you in here a little bit later after we talk to Strange. Unfortunately, StreamYard only allows 6 people, but I kind of want to develop a relationship with a lot of our past guests. So it's cool, man. We got time, right? But Kirk, so I that Christian Hunter was not the last that they kind of strung up.
What I essentially did was, after Hanner, I kind of just backed out, and I watched the publishers that stayed out of the drama too. And then by degrees, I just continued to remove myself from the circle of the people who were, focusing in on the attacks as much as I could, and just got the hell out. You know what I mean? And what at the end of the day, honestly, what was left was Addle and Grindhouse. They had a tendency, from at least in my experience, to stay out of that stuff, and they just wanted to write books and they wanted to publish books. And I said, all right, these folks are for me.
Did you read Neon Dies at Dawn, by the way, since you work with Prunty occasionally?
Yeah, I read most of his new stuff when it comes out. I did read that one. I thought it was all right. There's definitely books that he's written that I like more, but it was good.
The mailbox scene, though, without spoiling it, because apparently I'm terrible when it comes to delivering spoilers to people who don't ask. But
no, you're good at it. That's the problem.
The mailbox scene, though, right? It's pretty intense, right?
Dude, you lost me, because I'm remembering the cage in the basement stuff. I remember a lot of pretty rough torture scenes and everything, but the mailbox scene escapes me, man.
Should I just say it?
Refresh my memory, unless anyone has objections.
Well, I know that
I don't have any objections.
I've been nagged to death about. Oh, Jeremy spoils everything, but I want
to. That's Zach and Ben.
It's not me either. I don't give a shit.
Zach, do I have your attention to talk about a book and actually, talk about its contents, please? Oh, please. No answer. What about Strange? Strange, is it okay? Please, oh, please.
Oh, that's right. It was Strange who was getting on your ass.
Oh, it was both.
Yeah.
And I'm just breaking balls. It's nothing. But anyway, okay. Basically, the mailbox scene is his nephew is missing, and somebody tells him to go to the mailbox or something, or they're investigating the house to see if that it yields clues about where his nephew might be, and they discover what they claim is a dead animal in his mailbox, but he swears it's his nephew. It's like an American Psycho type moment where it's like, okay, is this all?
This doesn't sound like a spoiler. This just sounds like a thing that happens.
What are you talking about? The stuff that you called spoilers before is just the same thing.
No, it's very specific. Like if it's a big plot point that gets spoiled, that's a spoiler. But if it's just like one, kind of splatter moment,
no, hang on. The Bigfoot indweller kills the guy's girlfriend.
You asshole! I'm still wanting to read that.
No, I cannot, Strange. No, I cannot. The mailbox scene is important to what we're talking about here. So you don't remember, Kirk, where they say where he's like, no, that's my nephew, and the policeman says it's an animal. It's like a dead cat.
Gosh, I do not remember that, man. Now I'm feeling guilty. I feel like I retained shit pretty good, but no, I don't.
Yeah, then there's that's followed by the even more fucked up part where he takes it down to the drug dealer's daughter in the basement and says, "Is like you have to eat this entire thing, or else I'm gonna." I can't remember what he threatens to do, but he threatens to kill her or whatever.
That was an odd book. I loved it though. Seriously, Prunty just gets better and better, doesn't he?
Yeah,
I like Prunty a lot. Yeah.
Well, I've only read Slag Attack and Neon Dies at Dawn, which are pretty far apart, but Neon Dies at Dawn is definitely way better.
The Sorrow
I've only
King.
read Zero Stratus, so I have to get in on this guy.
Sorrow King is awesome too. It reminds me very much of Freddy Krueger's backstory, but Sorrow King's pretty awesome. So who are some of your favorite authors, Kirk, these days? Who do you look to for inspiration?
I like Prunty. I noticed most of you guys are talking about a lot of his horror works. I kind of like his stream of conscious. The more I don't even know how to describe them. I've been calling him cringe fiction. So I like Fill the Grand Canyon and Live Forever. Books along those lines are a bit more my speed. I like CV Hunt's work too. I like some of her stuff. What the hell else have I been up to lately? I don't even know if I should bring this up. I'm probably setting myself up for some ridicule here, man, but I got fucking hooked on Animorphs last year really bad.
I'm glad you brought that up because you've actually gone back and read like all of R.L. Stein's how do you pronounce
Oeuvre.
oeuvre catalog, basically.
A good chunk of it. Yeah, I went through that. I just basically was picking up any shit that I could at the library that would kind of give me a break from the heavy stuff that I'd been reading. I just read Raw Talent. It was a biography from the porn actor Jerry Butler. That was all right. It was kind of painful to read, but it's small press stuff, and then it's YA stuff. I like to read things that aren't too long. First of all, Todd Kiesling. I just read his. I can't remember what that one was called. That was pretty decent. I've been getting into a lot of kind of sci-fi horror or digital horror, I guess you might call it. So Lucas Mangum's got some good stuff out there. He should have a new one coming out fairly soon. Yeah.
What did you first say, though, that people were going to give you shit because you read a bunch of what was it?
Animorphs.
What's that?
Oh, it's
YA.
YA/juvenile series. There's 62 books in the series. They were big in the, I think, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I was really into it when I was a kid.
Yeah, that's usually what I hear from people. They'll be like, yeah, that was cool 20 fucking years ago. And I'm like, man, it's kicks ass now still, man.
It's called
maybe I should
Animorphs.
Yeah, it's basically...
Sorry.
It's about... sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so the guy that was trying to get on, he can get on. He can take my place if he wanted. I didn't want to cut him out.
He says he's just here to listen.
Okay.
So you're good, dude.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
Maybe we do want to get Strange on in a little bit, but
Okay.
I don't even think he's off work yet. So,
Okay.
Phoenix. How I don't remember if we talked about it when you were last on, but have you read any Bizarro?
I don't know where to start with Bizarro, honestly, because I've heard different definitions of what it is, so I don't even know like what text would be seminal and like what. Yeah, I'm honestly not sure.
Whatever you do, don't read Kevin Strange.
I would recommend a little book called "The Story of the Why." It is clearly the pinnacle of bizarre fiction.
Your book, right? That was yours, right?
I'd honestly recommend one of the Bizarro starter kits. Those are actually really good collections.
No, I love that cover. It's really creative.
Yeah, Matthew.
And it was published by Cable Books. Are they a Bizarro press?
Cabal Books.
Cabal?
Yeah, they're kind of more literary Bizarro, like along the lines of Route Again and
what's the
Vonnegut.
I didn't realize Route Again was Bizarro. What's the distinction between Bizarro and literary, and like how do those merge?
Well, I guess with that, with this, it's because the original imprint was called Thick and Veiny Books. So I guess it's kind of like how it is. It's more genre fiction inspired. Like one of the books is by Vince Kramer, and it's called Deadly Laser Explodathon. So I guess it's a bit more, subtle in the weirdness. It's more image driven.
Okay. Yeah. I haven't had an entry point yet. Do you mind sending me a list of a couple?
I'll be glad to, brother.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that.
I'd recommend just looking up like Bizarro starter kit, and any one of those would be a good starting
point.
I
just never know if I trust those. Like if they're like
Bizarro starter kit, but I don't think personally that is a good.
I say House of Houses by Kevin Donahue.
Donahue's good.
Donahue's good. Donahue is fucking top notch. He does it in all the right ways. And I think everybody's different about what their definition of Bizarro is. Some people are going to point you to Carlton Melick right away. I'd say if you wanted to put it on like a continuum of some sort, Vince Kramer is probably at the wildest, most unhindered, uninhibited, writing at one end of the spectrum. And then at the other end of the spectrum, if you're shifting towards literary, you get folks like Donahue and maybe D. Harlan Ellison, who really does more surrealist than Bizarro. So there's a huge, broad spectrum of Bizarro work out there, and it's really hard.
What does it? Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if it was still in print, if you're looking for more of a literary Bizarro thing, and you might be able to find it still. I would say The Two Birds Made Me Interesting by Matthew Revert.
Okay, yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be literary. Like, I have no distinction in my mind. I just know that I'm probably somewhat of a snob, and like I like certain prose styles, I guess. But it
You'd like
depends.
Rivera, but I don't know why he took that book out of print. It was so
Well,
Lagoon
it's-
Man went under. The
Yeah,
pub-
Lagoon Men went under, and he
Well,
hasn't.
even just thinking of the covers, it looks like a lot of it is focused on the imagery of it, just like weird kind of unexpected imagery.
yes.
It is. It is. It's very much, and they're very padded. A lot of the early Bizarro works, especially like you'll
Okay.
get like I remember reading Baby Jesus Butt Plug and being like, wow, this is a 10-page story that just got padded to hell and back. Adam Pepper had one too, the Super Fetus book, and that was another one that was like, this is a 10-page book that just it got padded until they could turn it into a novel and throw it on the shelves, and people are basically buying it on the title alone. And that was kind of one of the first things that Rose told us when I got in with NBAS. She's like, look, it's title, image on the cover, and back of the cover description, and that's really what's going to hook them and sell it. And she never said this, but the general sentiment seemed to be, it doesn't really matter if anybody reads the damn thing, as long as they buy it. That's the most important part, right? So, and there were some authors. Go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, in a sense, I suppose that's how all publishers probably think. Like, well, we don't care if we don't give a fuck if you read this shit, just buy it.
Yeah, exactly.
Use it for toilet paper for all we care.
The thing that sucks about that as
Or
an
a piss
author,
bag.
though, is that you write one shitty book that has mass appeal because of its cover or its title or its back cover description, and the next thing you know, nobody buys the next book that comes out, and you're like, oh shit, you're back at square one again. And that's always been kind of a bummer. That's one of the reasons I want to take Masturbatory Entropy out of circulation sometime soon, because it's just like it's not that good. So.
Well, I was very fascinated with this piece that publishers will take less risks on different material.
What's that?
What do you mean?
I don't know.
So Kirk Jones, right?
Yeah.
So you were saying that some of your books they don't want to take a chance on. Because,
I think
like you're changing the direction of like what Bizarro is, or even what you want to write.
Oh yeah, I don't think it's that they don't want to take a chance on it. I mean, this has happened to me several times. Grindhouse, I just submitted my last book to them, my last horror book, and CV told me, why don't you send this to Anti-Oedipal Press? I think it's D. Harlan Wilson's press, but I just missed the deadline for it, and it was too far outside of the spectrum of the kind of work that they publish. That's all. The same thing with. I think Rooster Republic was the same way. Don Noble, after Seamus left, had a very specific vision about how he wanted things to proceed. And the work that I was working on at the time, like Die Empty or Ether Christ, it just wasn't in the same vein as the work that they were trying to produce there. So it's not that publishers aren't willing to take a chance on it. I think mainly what it is I don't have enough clout as an author for the book to sell itself on my name alone. And part of that is, and this is something me and Anderson Prunty have talked about a lot, I write too much different shit, bizarro, sci-fi, dark fiction, just weird, cringy stuff that's pseudo-literary. And he's talked in the past about how he wished he would have years ago, divvied up his work into one pseudonym for horror work and one for his other stuff, because people do come to books with specific genre expectations. And they come to publishers with specific genre expectations, and I jump around too much to be consistently published by the same, publisher. So I'm actually at the point now where I'll write a book and I'm like, okay, this one maybe will work for Apex, and then I'll write a book, maybe this one will be good for Atlatl, and then I'll do something on my own that's genre bending according to what I've done in the past, and just do my best in that respect. But sometimes I'm off target, and right now that just happens to be the case. I'm sitting on 2 books I just wrote, one that I wrote a while ago. I've got 3 books I'm sitting on and 2 that I'm trying to write, and they're not going anywhere right now. Nobody's picking them up. So,
well, I like that you jump. I mean, not necessarily genres, but I mean maybe even just styles or content. I mean, and it sounds like you actually do have some clout with a variety of publishers. I mean,
yeah, I've got 2 that I work with quite a bit. So it's quite nice. Yeah, definitely.
Well,
tell me about these Animorphs.
We're going back to the
I
fucking
had an
Animorphs.
ex-girlfriend that was like obsessed with those.
So
you never heard of
I
Animorphs?
looked it up, and they can touch. They can turn into any animal they can touch, right?
Yeah.
So they go to the petting zoo. Do they instantly
They
turn into
do,
the
man.
animal?
No,
They
they absorb
do.
it.
conveniently, one of the animorphs, she works on like a injured animal farm or something. So like they'll sneak into the barn late at night, as teens are apparently wont to do, and and touch various animals in totally appropriate ways.
Right.
And then they acquire their DNA through this weird fucking cube that they have, and then they can turn into that animal, and each one kind of has their own animals that they have affinities with and work better with and shit. And it's cheesy as hell, man.
But
totally
they don't instantly turn into the animal that they touch, right?
Oh no, they have a hell of a time doing it, man. They struggle with it at first, and then they get better at it over time and stuff. And there's like 6 different there's 6 different writers or 7. It's all under K.A. Applegate, but they hired different people to write different ones.
It's like a house name.
Exactly, yeah. And some authors are good. There are a couple that are really good, and then there are a couple that are subpar. So there's a list somewhere online. There's like 15 out of the 62, I think, that are there, maybe 52. There's about 16 that are they're good as far as Animorphs are concerned.
Right.
The storylines are decent, and I had a hell of a time with them. I probably read about 20, I think, something around there. So.
Okay, because I was thinking if they instantly turned into the animal that they touched, right, then, if a spider crawls on them or something like that, they just, turn into a spider on, against their will,
Oh no, and they've got a whole repository too. Like every time they turn into a new one, they can turn into that one, whenever they want to after that point. So, they all get more nuanced and better as time goes on. So
like a grown ass dude can turn into like a little cat.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
What's
and
your
there's
favorite
there's like a thing where if they stay more for I can't remember how long it was, but
2 hours.
2 hours. They permanently remain that animal. So throughout the series, one of the characters spends most of their time as a hawk because they got stuck in that morph.
Tobias?
Can they telepathically talk to other people that are, you know what I mean, like
animals? Yeah, man. Yeah, he's still chilling with them. He's still chatting.
And they fight this alien race, which are called Yerks. They're basically leeches that crawl in your ear and control your body.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
It's actually pretty awesome.
Wasn't Tobias, he actually became so much of a hawk that he forgot about his past life?
No, they actually give him the opportunity, maybe in some point, but from what I saw, the Elemist allowed him to transform back into a human sometimes, but if he ever stayed human for more than 2 hours, he'd revert to his human form and he could never transform into an Animorph ever again. So
interesting. That may have come later because I think I read the third book in the series, which was strictly, I think, Tobias's story. And I was just fascinated at the idea that he couldn't turn back, that he was becoming a bird.
Yep. Yeah, and
so,
he was getting
so 3 people on the show have read his Animorph stuff, right? So that's crazy. I've never heard of it.
Seriously?
Well, it was after your
It was a
time.
TV show, right?
Yeah,
was a TV
Nickelodeon.
show out of Canada. Yeah, it lasted 2 seasons. You can watch it on YouTube, but the quality of the episodes is so bad. And it's you listen to the actors talk about it. Like they got on the show, they did the 2 seasons. I think there's 2 seasons. And they didn't even know that it was a book series or that it was famous or anything. And like, it's so weird to be recognized by people. I just thought it was like this rinky-dink, low-budget piece of shit show, and it turned out it was a bestseller book and everything. So it is kind of one of those, I don't know, best-kept secrets or something. I don't know.
But it is what I do recall being kind of disappointed in the show because it's obviously had no budget to do like most of the cool stuff, so it looked really cheesy.
Oh, it was so bad, so bad. I watched it with my kid. She wanted to check it out, and
so
it was
when
terrible.
were these books released?
90s.
90s?
Late 90s, early 2000s, maybe.
Okay.
This was back when something was YA, like only kids would hear about it. It didn't get it wasn't really until Harry Potter where they decided like YA was the new gold mine.
Well, it's Scholastic too. I mean, if it was all coming out through the Scholastic paper magazines that were coming home from the schools, and that's where everybody heard about it. So I had seen it on the school bus when I was a kid, but I was too busy, smoking dope and listening to Nirvana or something probably.
So what age range is it?
Oh, dude, it's supposed to be for teens, I think, but it's for 7-year-olds to 12, I'd say.
Okay.
I mean, I read it when I was that age.
Kirk, I got to know, what is your favorite Goosebumps?
Oh, shit, man. I just finished up that Go Eat Worms, I think it was called. That one was all right. I had a good time with that one. But other than that, there's one about the ghost next door. That one was kind of, I guess, spooky in a way. The Camp Jelly Jam was really kind of weird.
I like
And
that.
I had fun with that one too. Yeah, they were good. But the honest truth is the books are so short. There's no time for the characters to be anything other than two-dimensional archetypes. I mean, I can objectively read these books just like, I mean, Animorphs. You can read it and you can go, wow, this is not that good. Objectively speaking, but then still get sucked into it. So that's really where Goosebumps is for me. It's not a guilty pleasure. I don't give a shit what anybody thinks, but man, it's not good writing in a lot of ways.
I say One Day at
One
Horror.
Day at Horrorland.
That, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
That's my
that was-
favorite.
Attack. What was the one? Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. It was a Goosebumps 2000.
I don't know.
You know what I'm talking about?
Boy, there was one, and maybe this is the one you're talking about, where like they had to dig up the corpse of a kid or something in a cemetery in order to stop
Yeah.
the ghost. And it was just like, holy shit, this is some heavy stuff for like an 8
Yeah, I remember. Okay, and I'm going to spoil it. I'm going to break my dang thing. I mean, it's like a freaking 100-page kid book, so who cares? But it's
Yeah,
the one where,
Strange, you
are you
can-
thinking
you
of
can
the
read
one
them
where
later.
at the end there's some kind of curse thing that happens, and the main character, who's a boy, gets body swapped with his girlfriend or something, and like the last thing is him looking down and seeing that he's wearing a dress.
Oh, I don't remember that one.
It was at the very end of Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, and it had something to do with like the curse that's making the
Oh
zombies
shit.
come up or something.
I always got
I've
freaked out by
never
the
read a
hamster.
Goosebumps book.
That's weird, man. Phoenix, what was your favorite? Did you read Goosebumps?
So my parents actually didn't let me read them. And so one day, because I liked reading books, I read it anyway. Unfortunately, I don't actually remember what it was about. But I remember always being freaked out by the hamster that gets genetically modified.
Oh, that was Monster Blood 2. Monster Blood 2, right?
I wish I could remember. It was just so long ago, you know? But if I like saw the title, I'd probably remember, because I do remember the theme, which was like, oh wait, is this like what's really happening? Like, am I imagining this or is this reality? It was weird.
Hey,
pretty
Phoenix,
cool, though.
I remember a long time ago, I think way back when I had my old Facebook account, I was friends with you, and you had said something about a kid book that seriously affected you when you were little and put you on the path of being the writer. And it was the same one as mine. It was called Maniac McGee. Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, no, Maniac. Although the weird thing is I read Maniac McGee as an adult.
Huh.
So yeah,
It is that good. It's crazy.
it is. No, that book is amazing. Yeah, I recommend it. I mean, because a lot of it was like, the writing was what caught me off guard, because it's like, okay, this is a kid's story, so I can't take it too seriously. But then you're like looking at the language and you're like, oh, this actually represents something else. And it's like, that's like actually kind of true. It was weird. I actually remember reading it because I worked at a school for a little bit and I got to read to some of the kids. So I chose Maniac McGee, not really knowing what I was going to get into. And then I got sucked into it for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, when I read that in elementary school, it like destroyed me basically. I think it was actually the first time like I had cried.
Well, I
during
don't think people actually understand it though, because I feel, I mean, I'm sure you understand it because you understand the deeper implications, but like, I think people would think it's a kid's story because it's like about kids, but it's like really about like human nature and like all of these kind of metaphors and ways in which we talk to each other, and we don't always understand why. Like, because Maniac McGee is definitely an outsider, but like he's not aware of it until later on, and like that's so interesting because it's like, wait, I can see
Yeah,
that these
it's
things
like-
are different. Yeah.
Yeah, like the whole thing is, it's like he's wild at first, and then he gets taken in with people, and it's
Yeah.
like constantly these relationships he forges are just
Yeah.
going to hell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's like these people have these horrible hangups, and it's like it's almost like he gets to where he would rather be like he was before. I mean, it was pretty crazy, but for a kid. I've not read it since I was little, but like I remember a whole lot about it.
I mean, yeah, I recommend it again, honestly. I mean, you could probably read it in a few days.
I'll check that out.
Like, and I think the thing about Maniac McGee is like, I feel like when we talk about books we're excited about, like, it's always this thing of like, well, they're telling me to read it, but I have like 50 books on my list and 50 books by my bookshelf, and like, I need to not read this. But I I would say that was actually the reason why I read it, because I was like, this is something I need to do now. And I don't know a lot of books that have done that to me. And so, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like it's
like-
an intense read.
Well, the writing too, because like when you think of a kid's book, like you expect the writing to be like simple in terms of like dumbing it down. But actually the language is almost like a shield for like a lot of these like deeper things that are being discussed beneath the surface. It's weird. Like, I mean, I could almost imagine the characters. And I just don't know a lot of books that do that. I mean, because like we do so many different things with language, and it's really hard to tap into that immediate emotional quality that represents things that you're not immediately seeing.
Hey, man, this is awesome. Kirk, you mentioned archetypes, so you follow the Joseph Campbell school of thought on storytelling, right?
Well, I mean, I'd go outside of that a little bit. I mean, that's definitely one of the points. You know, one of those theories that I learned about in college. But I think there are so many archetypes outside of the few that are offered when you have a superficial understanding of Joseph Campbell, which is honestly all I have. You know, I know the basic archetypes and the basic elements of the hero's journey and things like that. But I think there's so much more. You know, I would go into just saying with Goosebumps, there's, you know, younger sister, younger brother, older sister, older brother, mom, dad, and different kinds of, you know, the work obsessed dad, the stay at home mom. These are the kind of these archetypes of Americana in suburban society, in suburban existence. And that's what Goosebumps is really all about. And I think that's part of the appeal for me, because I grew up in such a weird area. Like I grew up in fine New York, and you know, I woke up and you'd look out the window and you'd see like my neighbor had beagles dragging, you know, parts of deer carcasses across the road, and we had a host of weird people around us. And Goosebumps is just, other than the supernatural elements, so suburban and so friggin' normal that it's kind of refreshing in a way. So.
Do you have an example of the text doing that? Because like I think that's what I remember reading the little bit that I did of Goosebumps, but I was just wondering if you had a specific example
of the text doing what precisely.
I mean, assuming I'm understanding what you're saying, it's kind of this idea that like it seems like it's about suburban life, but there's like this deeper metaphorical layer. Like,
go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I always wondered if like the horror wasn't really the point of Goosebumps. I mean, maybe in terms of R.L. Stein's vision, but not necessarily in terms of like, I don't know. Yeah, I guess my thought falls apart, but something like that.
I don't think R.L. Stein thought about it that deep, because like
that's what I worried about.
That's what really money driven. Like okay. I remember he did this thing where he got into New York, and he started selling to these humor magazines because he wanted to be a humor writer. And right off the bat, he started acting like a big dog. And basically the way Goosebumps came about was like his agent or someone was like, okay, if you want to keep up this big dog persona, you've got to follow the market. And she said, or the agent told him why horror was like going to be the next big thing. And so he basically just started writing crap, and it just took off from there.
Well, because the thing that I wonder too is like, would any of that still be subconscious though? Because I feel like I have a visceral reaction to the idea that, okay, this is the world that I'm seeing. And then it's like, oh, and there's this horrible thing, but I'm like kind of desensitized and accustomed to it unless I look at it from a different angle.
I think that you could read into some of the books and find a potential metaphorical underpinning. You know, there was one called Stay Out of the Basement, and it was basically the father was like a workaholic, and he was always missing, but then he brought his work home, and they were trying to figure out what's going on. The father wouldn't let him go in the basement. And I think that could potentially resonate with people. And you know, of course, in the book, there's a supernatural element to it. What's going on in the basement is far beyond anything we could ever fathom. But I mean, in small town America, it could be, you know, your parents growing dope in the basement, or you know, any number of things that they're doing in their basement or looking at. But again, I don't know if that's actually like Jeremy said, if that's what Stein was going for, or if he was just pumping out shit, you know, as fast as he could. So.
You know, we talked about a few years ago, and you said to fully answer this question, you know, it would take, you know, several hours, but I was perplexed about the difference between pataphysics and semiotics, and I think you said there were two completely different things, but I don't know. They seem kind of the same to me. Maybe I don't understand what they are.
You talking to me, man?
Yes.
We've talked about semiotics. I don't know what the hell pataphysics are, man. I ain't never heard of that shit.
Alfred Jarry?
Pataphysics is like a made up kind of thing, isn't it? Semiotics is about like language and how certain things, the symbol, the signet, what? I'm trying. No, I know. I just can't get it out. It's like about the difference between, what something signifies versus, the signifier, I guess.
Wait, is this that thing where people will take like they'll write a novel that like limit themselves to not using certain
that's
words?
That's
not
Aleppo.
Semiotics is it's the study of signs, and in a literary capacity, it might boil down to something as simple as what the various connotations and denotations of a given word. But it goes deeper than that. Even a lot of the French philosophers that were into semiotics, including Levi Strauss, who the whole idea of silver tab genes, the whole idea of Levi genes, and the tab that's on the back that signifies quality. Basically Levi Strauss, they sold the same pair of jeans. One was at a $20 mark and one was at a $60 mark, simply because of the tags and a couple of other minor things. But so he used it for capitalist venture. But it comes down to what the semiotic implications or the symbolic implications of even everyday things. Like when you're on a city street, you can tell who a tourist is versus who a resident who lives there, a local resident is. If someone tracks an animal in the woods by its footsteps or by its droppings, there's a semiotic element to that. Even in a courtroom or a classroom, when a judge is sitting above you, looking down at you, there's this. It's the semiotics of power structure at play there. So it goes incredibly deep. It can go as deep as you want to, and it can also be sometimes shallow and superficial. Pataphysics, I have no fucking idea, but semiotics is kind of my shtick. One of them. It's what I teach in comic books as literature class I teach, and a little bit in a digital identities course I teach as well, where we're at the point now where we're looking at video chats in real time, and the fact that the video chat is streaming, it signifies the actual person, but it's just a kind of a video reproduction of them, and how does that impact the way that we interact with others and our social identity construction and things like that. So it's fun shit. It's a rabbit hole that I recommend everybody go dive right into and don't come out for, well, we got plenty of time. Spend a couple months down there.
I like the way how you present it as a fun rabbit hole rather than something that's going to like shake up your view of reality, because so many people do that with so many things these days, especially in like the academic setting. It's cool seeing you're going at it in like a kind of fun, passionate way, whereas I've had a lot of teachers who it's like they have this shtick where they want you to come out of the class and it's like you're completely changed and it's almost like you're in a cult.
Well, the thing is, academia is so heavily steeped with people overanalyzing shit that everyone already does on a daily basis. So like I get excited about social identity construction, I get excited about semiotics, but they're both things that every single human being on the planet is doing on a daily basis. Once all you have to do is just kind of poke people a little bit and unlock the key, and then they have access to all of the information. They're like, oh shit, it's already there. So I don't know. I feel like that whole, and I understand exactly what you're saying because I've met professors like that too. It's kind of inflating and selling the idea. When the truth of the matter is, no idea is as grandiose as we want it to be if it's relevant, because if it's relevant, it's already an integral part of the human experience. And all you have to do is just go, when you do this, and people go, yeah, and then it clicks, and then they're like, holy shit, this is semiotics, and then they're just like, they're drawing the connections fucking everywhere. My semiotics professor did it with cereal boxes. He's like, let's just look at cereal boxes for one day in class, and you know, look at the cauldron-sized bowls. Look at the characters; they all look like they're coked up, except for Sugar Bear, who looks like he's stoned. And what kind of message is trying to be conveyed to children on those cereal boxes? And when you really start to sit down and think about it, you're like, holy shit! Like, these cereal boxes aren't just saying buy the product because it tastes good. It's, you're going to get that sugar high. The characters are euphoric. They're insane. The colors are crazy. Like, cereal isn't just a breakfast experience. Breakfast experience. It's gonna blow your fucking mind.
I heard that cereal box characters like deliberately are made to look down at kids instead of straight ahead or up at adults in the when they're shopping, and that's specifically so that the kid says, Mom, Dad, buy me that.
And that's all the semiotics of marketing. And once you get, like, once it clicks with somebody, then suddenly they have access to such a broad array of personal experiences they've already been through. They're just looking at it through a new lens, the lens of semiotics. And I think that's the best way to teach people, is just show them how they already have access to the idea or insight that you're trying to give them, and then they're equipped with so much more arsenal because they've lived it for so many fucking years,
But it's amazing how much of that we would even take for granted. Like, we don't think about a cereal box as possessing some kind of language of its own.
Oh, no, definitely not. And once you unlock that, then people start looking around and going, well, let me look at, other things. I do.
See, that's the thing Jeremy and I were talking about earlier privately. It's like, and because he doesn't like going down the rabbit hole of picking out satanic images in media, because he believes it's kind of like a preachy thing. But it's like, once you notice it and you see the trademarks, you can't unsee it.
Sure. Yeah, Neil Gaiman made the same assertion about Joseph Campbell. He said, I don't want to know the archetypes. I don't want to know about the hero's journey, because it strips literature of its magic. And in some ways, semiotics could be said to strip the world of a little bit of its magic. It's definitely true. So,
well, language.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phoenix.
Well, I guess that's my confusion. Is I feel like language is this really beautiful thing, but it can also be used to conceal things, right? And so, like, the application of semiotics, we would hope that we can see through at least some of that. Because, like, with literature, you don't want to overthink the language because you want to be along for the ride. But if it's like something in the world that might have a more capitalistic end, so to speak, or something like that, I mean, at least using the language of semiotics and like Roland Barthes and stuff. Like, because I think of the example of the steak, right? Like, the steak even itself represents power. It represents this thing that you enjoy, but that also represents the bourgeoisie.
Sure. Barth is great. In fact, if any of you guys get a chance, I'll try to find a link to it. There's got to be public domain work at this point. Barth did a semiotic analysis of wrestling, wrestling, the sport, the display sport. And then there's another one about soap detergents and what, it seems so boring. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've actually read the book that's in.
Yeah, mythologies. It's a good collection, and boy, when you read it, you're like, man, this guy's such a damn nerd. But when you start really looking at like what bleach signifies, like, not just the cleanliness of your clothes, but the cleanliness of the American home, cleaning not only the physical dirt, but like the moral dirt as well, like equating it to that. It's like, holy shit, man, these folks right from the dawn of time have been, and I don't think it's intentional. I think that we all have this. It's really mythologizing, for lack of a better term, everyday mundane products to try to create this magical world, when really it's just kind of mundane at times.
Well, they also did that with soap too, where it was this thing of like, you have to attack the germs. Like, I forget the way that he uses the metaphor, but it's something like that, right?
Hell yeah.
And like, but that's the weird thing, is like, is it really something we need to attack, or is that the binary? Because even that goes into a little bit of like Derrida's logocentrism of like having this binary and subordinating one aspect of something for another thing.
Sure.
I don't know that I guess I don't see. I hear someone talking about Barth's essay on wrestling, and they use Randy Orton as an example. Orton is known best for his time as a heel, or AKA villain. Everything about his look screams evil, and his character lives up to these associations. Signifiers in this sign would include his cut muscular figure, his arms, which are adorned with tattoos, mostly skulls, and his eyes, which convey a cunning and devious look. His actions, which are the signified, have done nothing less than completely associate him and his appearance as villainous. What's his point, though? I don't.
Well, the cool thing, I'll take it one step further. The cool thing about this is that we've kind of been taught by media to expect that heroes and villains adhere to these semiotic conventions, right? It's reinforced so much that when we run into people who don't adhere to those semiotic conventions in reality, sometimes it can be shocking to us. So the whole idea, I think, in that what you're reading right there is just the idea that Randy Orton reinforces the semiotic conventions of the villain, so that kids know right away, as soon as that fucker walks out into the ring, they know that he's supposed to be booed. You know what I mean? And he's supposed to be ripped on. And then they always know who the hero is, and he's supposed to be, considered this, this great upstanding guy because he adheres to different semiotic conventions. So
It's like a pattern recognition thing, right?
exactly,
I mean,
yeah.
Apparently, I worship media, according to Frank. No, it's just I'm not ready to go all in on the whole turn down that devil music. I've been there, okay? And I mean, I like heavy metal, and I will die liking heavy metal.
Well, heavy metal's good, but it's like
even the ones with the cult
encounter that. No, not even just the symbols, because at this point, the symbols
Even the guys
are
who
just
burn
kind of
down
like-
churches.
It's like at this point, the symbols are kind of like no one cares because it's been kind of lampooned so much.
Oh,
Like,
sure, yeah.
You get into certain messages in the media, and I'm not going to be able to come up with good examples. It's just stuff that you see everywhere. There are so many satanic archetypes playing out in things such from freaking Star Trek to Evil Dead, and it's like it's.
Well, the symbols get watered down over time, and then you have to rely on more I think extreme visual signifiers. If we go back to like the beginning of horror movies, and especially like B movies in the 60s and 70s, and you'll see that like in order to compete with Hollywood movies, the B movies basically start to up the ante on visual signifiers of gore, violence, horror, and things like that. And then of course it takes 20 or 30 years for Hollywood to catch up, of course, because they have to play it safe. But yeah, and that's ultimately what happens is we have to go more and more and more extreme until we reach a point at which the medium either parodies itself, right? Or the symbols become so watered down that people move in a different direction. And this all relates back to advertising. The cool hunters is what they're called. They've known this for years. So basically what they do is it's like a game of poker. One advertiser will start working with a specific set of semiotic, signifiers of something, like a trend of some sort, like let's say punk or horror or something like that. They'll bring it into the mainstream. And then other advertisers will up the ante, and it goes further and further and further until all of a sudden you've got guys wearing, gas masks on the street as a fashion symbol with, nail mohawks, because that's where Slipknot took them. And so it gets more and more outrageous, more and more wild. And then at that point, once we reach the pinnacle of the signifiers that they can use for this genre or whatever it might be, they kill it, they let it die, and then they move on to something different. So,
yeah. Well, I guess I was getting into the standard, like they're pushing these kind of evil messages onto people, not necessarily related.
Zach
like
is coming at it from a
extreme it
religious
is.
standpoint. Zach is coming at it from a religious standpoint. Kirk is coming from it from an analytical way, like as a teacher, right?
Well, I think they're both right. He's talking more about like things getting, like basically what he said. You get to the point where it's like everything is self-referential and whatnot. I guess I'm getting more into like the certain cultural things that will be pushed in the media, regardless of whatever the form is. Like regardless if it's in the stage of it's kind of new and fresh to where it's kind of in its dying stage where it's becoming self-referential. I'm just talking specifically about the moral and cultural messages and even flat out religious messages that will be pushed.
Well, here's the absurdity of the day. you've got the atheist in the chat, Strange, is lecturing me, the Christian, about.
See, I don't think
listening
Strange
to
at this
devil
point
music.
is an atheist. I believe he's
Well, whatever
an
he
in the
is, he
closet
said-
Christian.
no, no,
I'll
no.
call
He
Kevin
said
that. He's an
that he
in the
doesn't
closet.
believe, and that's fine, and he doesn't have to. But
No, it's not all physiological, Strange. You're an in the closet Christian. Admit it.
that I told him, yeah, he's going to, convert eventually. And no, I'm not going to turn this into, a sermon or anything, because I'm, aware that we have, guests and co-hosts present who will probably never be religious. And that's okay for them. But I've got an atheist / agnostic or whatever lecturing me, the Christian, about listening to that devil music. It's just, isn't that absurd if you really stop and think about it? Is that not absurd?
Well, you
So
should probably
I-
stop listening to that devil music.
Yeah.
Well, it would be if you didn't know both of you and like where you're coming from. But
Yeah, just up the ante and start listening to power electronics.
What is power electronics?
It's really dark, nihilistic, harsh industrial music.
Kraftwerk or front.
No, it's way harder than that. Look up after this is over. Look up Prurient. Look up Prurient or
Like prurient interest.
I'm just gonna
Oh,
go to
yeah.
Bandcamp and type in power electronics.
yeah.
Well, anyway,
I have worried about that. Like, I think it's easy to get desensitized to what we see and hear, and I think that it's kind of an unconscious process. Like, if we experience something that makes us uncomfortable, like we might not fully be aware that we're uncomfortable, but like there's a reason why we are. I mean, is that your experience? Like you're like, I don't like this, but I don't know why.
subconscious. Yeah, I've watched certain movies that really unnerved me, and I couldn't put my finger on why. And I'm betting that it was subliminal imagery.
Do you think subliminal imagery works?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess
I
I
don't think
meant
it
more.
does.
I guess I meant more the overt stuff that we just like are desensitized to and don't realize the effect it has.
I mean, I think that maybe not the subliminal messages, right, where they, flash obey or something, right? But I think that, there's probably like a geometry or a composition that you can use in film to evoke a certain kind of emotion, right? I think that's pretty much proven, right? I mean, I think that,
Wait, say that again.
I think there's probably like a geometrical composition,
symbols?
right? Or yeah,
Oh,
no,
okay.
more like compositions of angles and maybe
Oh, okay.
colors
Yeah.
and various
Like-
different.
Yeah. Okay.
Like things being just off in a way that you can't really describe.
Right. Yeah. I think that that's probably it's not proven. It's some people have an instinct for it that are able to get across a particular emotion by just arranging furniture in a freaking room in a certain way and filming it, right?
I totally, I think I know what you mean. I think I think I still wondered if I meant something more overt though. That I'm trying to think of an example. So this might be a silly example, but the Goosebumps one with I don't remember the animals bringing the deer carcass across. Like, there's one
Oh, no,
perspective.
that's actually my life.
That was Kirk's
That's
personal
that's my childhood.
Well, but but I don't know if I can formulate this thought fully. But the main idea for me is like
What occult symbolism do I fucking engage in? What are you talking about, dude?
He likes to push our buttons here, doesn't he?
Wait, me?
What is it?
we're talking about something
No.
He's referring.
What is it? The
last
weeaboo image?
episode.
Is it?
No,
What
not the
is it?
weeaboo. He's talking about last episode. We were talking about that woman, the spirit cooking woman, who's involved with going to all these people's freaking parties. Doing
Maria
flat-out
Abramovich
fake-
is nothing but watered down Viennese actionism. She's just
Straight
repeating
up.
some.
She's straight.
She's
up
repeating
Satanism,
something.
but she
She's
calls it
repeating something that was
performance
done back in the '60s, and now
art. Yeah,
and
it
now
was
it's
Satanism then too.
no, it wasn't. It was based on Dionysian rituals.
It's
To
that
simplify-
same thing.
To simplify my idea,
If you're gonna
Christian,
argue
that's the
that
same thing, dude.
Yeah, if you're gonna, I guess if you're gonna go from that standpoint, but I don't really see what I can't really respond to that because it's basically everything except what I believe is Satanism. Well, okay, whatever.
Well,
That's the path
just
you have to go down, I believe. Yes.
I was just thinking. So to simplify what I was saying, I didn't use the best example, but like we might see something that could be evil as like just normal. Like there might be things that we really overlook. I'm not sure how I feel about that because I don't like the idea of being manipulated by things I'm not even aware of, but I do think it's a real thing. And it's just hard to be like
all day, every day you're being manipulated by things
Totally,
you don't
yeah,
understand,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
yeah.
I mean,
are way more sophisticated than you could probably ever grasp. I think that there's especially folks maybe in advertising or marketing or whatnot that have a deeper understanding of psychology that's like trade secrets that they're using to manipulate people all day, every day.
But I was going to say, I think the other thing, maybe this is my silver lining of like some kind of hope, is that there's always a sleight of hand. And once you can see the smoke in the mirrors, but I think the trick is getting to that point, if that makes sense. Because I feel like if I was like more my uninhibited self, I would literally be afraid of everything. And so I've gone in the opposite direction and I've tried to confront it, even if I don't like it. But I would imagine the best case scenario would be somewhere in the middle where it's like, well, I don't like this, but I'm going to go ahead and give this a try, if that makes sense. Because I think openness to experience itself is still a good thing too. Like even if we don't always like what we experience, I think there can be a growth curve with those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, well, in terms of like the whole normalizing, I don't really like the term, but evil.
Well,
I think that's clearly something that happened. I mean, it happens. I mean, earlier this week, I read Gore Vidal's Perpetual War for Perpetual Peace, and that was kind of a big thing in it. Like these erosions of our civil liberties and perpetual wars overseas have been happening, so gradually, but are still are just happening that they've to such an extent that they become normal. It's normal to people that we're engaged in multiple military actions right now.
I mean, but aren't all countries engaged in military or constant warfare? I mean, isn't that like kind of like something?
Not really. I mean, if you're like there are countries who send some troops on behalf of the United States, but no, most countries are not like actively engaged in military in military conflicts at this point.
I don't necessarily want to go to extremes, but I think something that I think about too is to kind of keep it in a simpler phrasing. Like, is it possible that we become more and more sadistic without realizing it? Like, without being aware? And by we, not us necessarily. I don't necessarily want to make claims about human nature, but is it something like that? Like, is that possible? Because I do worry about that. Like, I mean, even the notion of wars, like that's a pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think that as far as the ease in which it is, like the easier it is to kill folks at a distance, right?
Yeah.
The easier it is to become, numb to it, right? I mean, back
Right.
in the day, if you wanted to kill somebody, you had to take a big honking sword and stab somebody in the gut, right? I mean, you had to have some balls, right, to go around killing people back in the day.
Right.
Now you just shoot somebody at a
With a
distance,
drone.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. As far as us becoming more sadistic, I don't know if that's maybe necessarily the case.
Yeah.
Maybe it is on the level that a lot of us don't directly confront death like we used to.
Okay.
I mean, it used to be like if we wanted violent entertainment, you did have to, go to the Coliseum and watch gladiators gut each other.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think
shit, man.
as far as we get, the farther we get from the actual murderous act, right? I think that the more I don't know if we get necessarily sadistic, but I guess we're disconnected from the actual consequences and don't really quite get it, right? But I think you're going to get it real good if you're stabbing somebody in the gut, right?
Right. Exactly. And there's we've definitely become pretty distant from death. It used to be.
I mean, it's very similar to how we're so distant from the source of our food, right? Like,
Right.
like a farm boy's got a different totally different and more natural, visceral understanding of, say, with the circle of life, right? To come up with a generic kind of cornball term, right? But I mean, it's true, right? They have a way better understanding of, what it means to be an animal or a human, right? And consuming other animals in order to live, right? I mean, they have a
Right.
way deeper understanding of what it means to, take a life and rend flesh and whatever the case may be.
Right. Like
I mean, there's a lot of difference between that and chicken nuggets, right?
Yeah. Yeah, you have to like go and look for videos that I don't want to look for to see chicks getting torn apart to figure out where chicken nuggets come from.
I mean, I always thought that maybe it would be best for most folks to actually see some of this stuff firsthand, right? I mean, I think that maybe you'd be more well adjusted, right? If you as a young kid, you got to see some traditional farmyard slaughter, right? I think it'd probably be good for you.
I mean, is it
maybe?
Is it possible to make the counter argument that maybe we also get better too? Like, I don't want to just leave it at a.
Oh yeah, I think all this stuff happens in parallel, right? I mean, I think that in a certain way that we're there's progress, and at the same time we're regressing in certain ways, right? Or we're losing our connection to something that we probably need to have some deep-seated connection to, that we're missing something, right? I think that.
Right.
I mean, I think that the further we get away from the farm, the weaker we get, and the more specialized we get, the more vulnerable we get, which is what we're seeing currently in the world, right? Is that we're so specialized and atomized that everybody has their own specialization, and if things fall apart, nobody knows how to do anything, right? I mean, there's a very small subset of humanity that could actually survive, a post-apocalyptic type of scenario, right? I mean, very few people.
Yeah, that's the thing I've always noticed in a lot of post-apocalyptic fiction and movies, is that these people are able, like, after the apocalypse happens, it's like they kind of pick up really quickly how to survive. But it's like, even me living in Tennessee, I don't know anyone who knows how to do all this stuff. Like, especially like my generation, we don't know anything. Like, I don't even know how to change a tire. And it's the norm. I mean,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Kirk hadn't said anything in a while. Is Kirk, you okay?
Yeah, I'm still kicking, man. I'm still kicking. I'm just listening to what people are saying. I agree with almost everything that's been said. It's fascinating.
You didn't think it would go to this, did you?
I don't mind where it goes, man. It's good. It's good flow.
Well, have you heard of? Okay,
Kevin Strange is saying in the chat, "Let me school you on occult ritual magic." Okay, can you teach me how to summon a big titty succubus?
I can.
We'll get Strange on.
Please send me the instructions.
We'll get Strange on.
I will. I should have sent you the book. It's 6 Dead Spots. I wrote the recipe for how to do that is in that book.
We'll get Strange on in a minute, but Kirk, we were talking about we were talking a minute ago about symbolism in literature and everything. Have you heard of? Are you familiar with these weird books like that are like codexes, and they have languages that no one can decipher?
Yeah, I know sure. That what's it called? The Codex something.
Seraphinianus.
Yeah, that.
The Voynich manuscript. You talking about that too?
Yeah, the Voynich manuscript.
Yeah, the Voynich manuscript.
Yeah. Wait, is that the Derek White Calamari Press thing?
Huh?
No, it's
calamari.
Like this.
Well,
why is it doing that?
Oh no!
Yeah,
I'm
what is
having
this?
Seizure.
Seizure time.
Oh yeah, the Codex. Well, the Codex Seraphinianus. I think that one intentionally was written in like a made-up language.
And the Voynich manuscript might have been as well.
Yeah, they just can't figure out where it came from.
What do you think about that stuff? Do you ever talk about that to your classes, or have you looked into them?
Well, I don't talk to my classes about it. I pretty much keep it down to the basic level. We talk a lot about street smarts and things like that. But as far as the Voynich manuscript is concerned, things like that, I think there's definitely a practice in human society to intentionally obscure the meaning of things, right? We've all had, everyone in here probably has done like a personal code that they and their friends use to write notes back and forth in school, shit like that. And then there are some that are so obscure, it's just an attempt to remain obscure from everybody, right? And of course, once we find something that can't be unlocked, right? Language is something that either we unlock it and have access to it, or we don't. Then it becomes coveted and it becomes more sought after. The same as, a shitty, overinflated literary book that, the author purports to be genius is highly sought after, when in fact it might be vapid and have no substance or hardly any substance whatsoever. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about this shit.
Yeah, and Tolkien, he made up his own languages.
Yeah, but he was a linguist as well, right? So I mean,
that's one example I was thinking of, like the idea of making up your own language for creative purposes.
But I think that his languages that he made up, in theory, somebody would be able to decipher it, right? If they came across it, 300 years from now, right? And didn't have the key, because there's actually rules that can be. You can figure it out, right? Just
deductive reasoning,
right? For deductive reasoning or whatever, where a lot of this stuff is, you can't just you can't decipher it for whatever reason, because it's actually a code, right? It's actually a cipher, I guess, right?
Yeah, or there's that technique. What's it called? It's like starts with an A something writing, where it's basically like almost like automatic writing for artistic purposes, that like it resembles language but isn't actually writing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I can't remember the phrase, or the term for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
almost like speaking in tongues.
There's always people who come out and they think that they've deciphered it because of their backgrounds. They think that there's nothing they can't find a way to explain. That's another thing that I hate about academia in general, is that they are very uncomfortable with the unknown if they can't explain it. That's the whole point. It's all very zen in life, that we don't understand everything, we never will. But they always have to have the upper hand with that stuff. That's something I find obnoxious.
I've never experienced that in virtually every humanities or philosophy class. Most professors are they always go back to the classic kind of Socratic idea that we know very little about the way that the world works. Now, if it comes down to morality, objective morality, notions of that, or what's society, correct on a social level, then you might start getting some folks that purport to know a bit more than they actually do. But it depends on, I think, how you approach a professor, and how they approach the class. If they're thinking of it from a philosophical perspective, they're probably more open to the idea of not knowing, and actually latch on to the idea of not knowing. If you look at it from maybe the professorial notion of social responsibility, then they're going to maybe act like they have all the answers. So,
hey, Phoenix, I hate to do this, but can I ask you to bow out so we can let Strange in to do blood sports, basically, with Ben over this occult shit?
Yeah.
If Phoenix if he wants to stick around, he can, guys. I got to head out in a second anyways. I got to get up at 9, so.
Okay, okay, Phoenix, you can stay if you want to, if Kirk's jetting in. Kirk, I think there were some other things I meant to cover, but I'm sorry I didn't get to them. This is kind of how this show works, It kind of goes. It's like a wild animal that does its own thing, So it
was a good time, man. I had fun. It was good to meet all you folks and chat with some of you, and hopefully we'll get to do it again down the road. Is Ben still out there? Is he still kicking around?
Yeah,
I'm right here.
Man, it was a good book. I had a good time with that.
Thanks a lot. I saw your review. All right. Talk to you later, Kirk. Thanks for coming.
Nice meeting you.
Yep. Bye-bye. Nice meeting you too.